News has just broken that the 18-year-old son of LeBron James, Bronny James, has suffered a cardiac arrest during a USC workout, and people are freaking out. Already on Twitter, vaccine is trending, with many people saying, when are we going to talk about the vaccine and these cardiac arrest incidents? There have been many stories which lead people to speculate. One was about a young high school, I believe in high school, playing tennis, suffered cardiac arrest. There was a story out of Brazil, I believe, of an athlete who was unable to compete after suffering myocarditis, and he died. And of course, many people are speculating about whether or not the vaccine plays a role. And I want to talk about all this. I want to show you some of the news. Elon Musk has chimed in on whether he thinks there's some relation to vaccines or things like that. But I want to first give you the news, and then we'll go over what the CDC says, what the news reporting is, how YouTube approaches this, how a judge has ruled on these vaccines. And I want to show you, I think, the most important bit of information pertaining to the vaccine, and it is the number of doses given, which is around, as of October, I believe, 12 billion, which plays a role in what I think is going on. But I will always say this when starting videos off on medical issues. I'm no doctor. I've always said this, dude. I'm not a doctor. You need to find a doctor you trust. Okay? This is why we have a bunch of different doctors. You know, and a lot of people don't trust the medical system, and I completely understand. I recently went to Tijuana to get medical treatment. This was mostly because it takes too long in the United States. But I did talk to several doctors here, and, you know, I thought I trusted them, and I just found better treatment somewhere else. I do think it is possible to find a good doctor in the U.S. because, you know, if you're somebody, you know, I had this argument with Alex Stein, and he was like, no, the medical system is corrupt. I'm like, hey, man, dude, I completely agree. But, you know, there are doctors who watch the same news as you and know the same. Doctors are people. If you are seeing things online and reading things that give you pause, you realize there are doctors out there who read the same stuff as you. Like, find the good doctor. A lot of people will say, like, oh, Tim, but you can afford the best doctors. Dude, money isn't the issue. Go to West Virginia and find a doctor, and they'll tell you what's up. Just take your advice from people who know better. But let me at least go over what the news says, how YouTube is handling this. And here's the breaking story from TMZ. Bronny James suffers cardiac arrest during USC workout. LeBron James' sonny, Bronny, was rushed to a hospital after suffering cardiac arrest during a basketball workout, TMZ Sports has learned. A James family spokesperson tells TMZ Sports, yesterday while practicing, Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family, and we will update media when there is more information. The spokesperson continues, LeBron and Savannah wish to publicly send their deepest thanks and appreciation to the USC medical and athletic staff for the incredible work and dedication to the safety of their athletes. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Sports a 911 call was made at 9:26 a.m. Monday from USC's Galen Center for the venue where the team plays and practices. Center 4, is something missing there? And the 18-year-old hooper who was unconscious was taken by ambulance to the hospital. Our sources say it was a code 3, meaning the ambulance lights and sirens, which signifies the seriousness of the emergency. Bronny is a rising talent in the sport. He recently committed to the Trojans and is expected to end up in the NBA. Although I must say right now, not a sports expert, completely unrelated to anything pertaining to vaccine stuff, I'm just going to say, my assumption is that not likely the case. I mean, you suffer a cardiac arrest. It's a serious, serious event. And that's going to have serious impact on your eligibility and your capabilities. They say, I think people who suffer heart attacks and cardiac arrest are substantially more likely to experience them later on in life. Bronny was a McDonald's All-American during his high school senior season, and LeBron has expressed his desire to play alongside his son in the league. Now, I'm just going to point this out, you know, because everybody's trending vaccine. Yeah, maybe it was at McDonald's. Cue litigation from McDonald's Corporation. Yeah, maybe eating all those salty, greasy garbage burgers that are made of plastic did it to him. No, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I do want to show you some data, and we'll talk about it. They say Bronny also followed in his dad's footsteps and competed in the slam dunk competition at the high school showcase in March. I hope the guy's okay. Seems like a cool dude. Hope everyone, I hope he's safe. I hope he leads a happy and good life. I hope he makes it to the NBA and all that good stuff happens for him. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. Bronny will have a close friend to lean on in a situation if he needs one, as Shaquille O'Neal's son, Sharif O'Neal, dealt with a heart issue of his own back in 2018 when he was a teenage basketball star. You'll recall Sharif required surgery to fix an abnormality in his ticker, and while it's unclear if Bronny's medical emergency is even remotely similar, the two are good pals and appear to be totally fun, confiding with one another, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't care about all that stuff. So this is the big news. All right. Let's break down this story and get into the idea, get into the argument around vaccines. Let me just start by saying a few things, and you are free to you don't have to agree with me. I think experimental medicine is absolutely awesome and fantastic. I just don't think people should be forced to undergo experimental treatments. You see, the government mandates and social pressures from massive corporations, I think, are evil. But the idea that Trump would fund experimental medicine, it's a good thing. Sorry, I just think it is. The idea that we would try to advance these technologies, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But the problem is how during the lockdowns, people were forced to undergo these treatments, which were new. That, wrong. Very wrong. Trump was in favor of right to try. I'm a huge fan of that. People who are dying should have the right to try experimental treatments prescribed by a doctor in clinical studies because, for one, they've got nothing left to lose. If they're dying, it's their choice. And more importantly, it could provide data that could save more lives. So it does bug me. And again, you don't have to agree with me. It bothers me that people are like, look, I think warp speed was, Trump was just trying to score a win in COVID. But I don't like people conflating the idea of funding experimental medicine with corrupt, massive multinational pharmaceuticals and government mandates. These are all separate things. Okay, no bid, no liability contracts, bad thing. Government requiring medication for things, bad things. Experimental medicine, really, really cool if people volunteer and choose to undergo experimental treatments. Take a look at this story from today.com. High school tennis player's teammate and coach save his life after sudden cardiac arrest. This is something that we have seen quite a bit. And right now, you can't avoid it. So YouTube, hold your horses and keep your pants on. This is a major story, and we must address the conversation around vaccines, myocarditis, and heart attacks. Has to happen. Chief Nerd tweeted yesterday while practicing Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest, and Elon Musk said, "We cannot ascribe everything to the vaccine, but by the same token, we cannot ascribe nothing. Myocarditis is a known side effect. The only question is whether it is rare or common. Well, according to the CDC, it is rare. We have this from healthychildren.org. Sudden cardiac arrest in young people. It happens. Okay. It has happened before. It can happen now. It happened yesterday. It'll happen tomorrow. The issue is why. They tell you what to look for, and they mention what causes sudden cardiac arrest in young people. One of the things they bring up is myocarditis. They say usually triggered by an infection. Myocarditis means the walls of the heart are inflamed. Most myocarditis cases in children happen when a virus, such as an enterovirus, gets into the heart. It can also be caused by bacterial, fungal, or parasite infections and allergic reactions to some medications. People are tweeting that Bronny James 2 years ago got vaccinated. And they're like, he got vaccinated 2 years ago. This proves it. And it's like, guys, that was 2 years ago. So a lot of the reporting on this is that, and this is from the CDC, that it's like typically within a few weeks, you're at risk for side effects and it usually abates. You don't got to trust the CDC or take my word for it. I'm just telling you what they're saying. 2 years later? Come on. Dude could have gotten an infection or whatever. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, but look at all the stories. Look at all the soccer players. Fair point. And I'll address that. First, cdc.gov. Selected adverse events reported after COVID-19 vaccination. This is updated July 13th, 2023. This is what the CDC says. This is not my opinion. This is the CDC's opinion. You can check it out for yourself. They say myocarditis and pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccination are rare. Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis is inflammation of the outer lining of the heart. Most patients with myocarditis or pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccination responded well to medicine and rest and felt better quickly. And most cases have been reported after receiving mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. I want to stress what they said. Most cases have been reported after receiving mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. I think they are making a reference to the adenovirus. I could be wrong. To date, evidence indicates the benefits of mRNA COVID-19 vaccination outweigh the risk of myocarditis. CDC and FDA will continue to monitor for and evaluate reports of myocarditis and pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccination. And they say, here we go. Let me pull that one up. Learn more about America. They say data from VSD and from VAERS indicate that rates of myocarditis after COVID-19 vaccination are highest among males in their late teens and early 20s, usually following the second dose of the vaccine. CDC scientists have conducted detailed reviews of cases of myocarditis and pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccines and have made the information available to healthcare providers and the public. This stuff is not a secret. This is the thing, okay? I've got no issue with people tweeting like that they think we should be looking into this stuff and there's potential correlations, all that. I think it's good. Have inquiries, do all that stuff. But the people who are acting like there's some deep conspiracy, I'm like, guys, it's on the CDC's website. They say it outright. Here, I just pulled this one up. Myocarditis and pericarditis after mRNA COVID-19 vaccination. They say they're monitoring it. They explain what it is. Should I get myself vaccinated? Here's what they say. Yes. CDC continues to recommend that everyone ages 6 months and older get vaccinated for COVID-19. The known risks of COVID-19 illness and its related possibly severe complications, such as long-term health problems, hospitalization, and even death, far outweigh the potential risks of having a rare adverse reaction to vaccination, including the possible risk of myocarditis and pericarditis. If you've already gotten the first dose, et cetera, well, talk to your doctor. Just because the CDC website says it doesn't mean you should just do it. But they don't seem to give us hard numbers. They do say myocarditis and pericarditis have rarely been reported. When reported, the cases have especially been in adolescents and young adult males within several days after mRNA COVID-19 vaccination, Pfizer or Moderna. More often after the second dose, usually within a week. Most patients with myocarditis and pericarditis who receive care responded well. Patients can usually return to their normal daily activities. Those who have been diagnosed should consult with their cardiologist about a return to exercise or sports. Come on. You get a dude who's playing basketball, really intense exercise, suffers a cardiac arrest, and here's what we can say. We don't know what caused the cardiac arrest right now. We do know that there are rare side effects of the vaccine, which would be pericarditis and myocarditis. We do know that myocarditis can cause cardiac arrest in young men. Therefore, this is why people are connecting those dots. I am not saying it is absolute. I'm saying take into consideration. Bloomberg says more than 12.7 billion shots given COVID-19 tracker in the U.S. 613 million doses have been administered. This is from October 2022. Okay. This is the point that I want to make. All right. Right away, when people say the vaccine did it or whatever, I'm like, okay, look, I don't know for sure. Right. I understand why people think that's the case. But just understand this. If the CDC says it's rare and they've given 613 million doses in the U.S. as of October, it's been almost a year. So I'd imagine they've given quite a bit more, though not as many because less people are getting it. 12.7 billion in the world. What's rare mean? 1 in a million? 1 in 10 million? I don't know. But here's what I think. I think it's entirely possible. And I want to pull up this from the CDC because they mention anaphylaxis has occurred 5 cases per 1 million vaccine doses administered. 1 in 200,000 people who have gotten the vaccine have suffered anaphylaxis, a severe type of allergic reaction. 1 in 200,000. Here's a question that I have. How come the news is not reporting on this? If 12.7 billion doses have been given out and they say 5 cases per 1 million doses results in anaphylaxis, we should be seeing tons of stories about this. I don't know. That's why I'm just like, the speculation, I'm not so sure helps everybody, but I will say this. When in doubt, just remain calm and have a, you got to think about what makes the most sense for you and talk to a medical professional. If you can't find a good medical professional who is trustworthy, the only thing I can really say is you keep looking. Yep, that's right. And a lot of people are like, no, it's impossible. And I'm like, look, man, doctors are people. They follow a machine. They follow protocol. Big pharma, I think, is really bad. There are a lot of bad doctors, but I know for a fact there are good doctors. You just have to find them. That's it. But I point this out because anaphylaxis after COVID vaccination is rare, they say. but still 5 per 1 million. I'm wondering what the myocarditis rate is. They don't actually give us a number. They also mention Guillain-Barré syndrome and things like that. Here's YouTube. Here's YouTube. And here's where things get wonky and confusing. I do not believe YouTube should have a policy on medical misinformation at all. This is YouTube deciding what they arguably could have like 1 or 2 policies on like intentionally making up fake information. But people are allowed to be wrong, and doctors can be wrong, right? Anybody can be wrong. The problem I have with YouTube's policies are that YouTube is behind the curve on medical science. When it comes, so look, our policies were first published on May 20th, 2020. When's your latest update on this stuff? They don't tell us. So how are we supposed to know if what they're claiming you can't say, which is a direct statement of fact or of opinion on their part? How do we know they're true and correct? They say, I do love this though, like you can't claim COVID vaccines will make you magnetic. Yo, that was the stupidest thing ever. People were putting magnets on their arm and be like, yo, it's sticking. Yeah, because your skin has oil on it, dude. Come on. What do they say? Don't promote the homemade treatments of vaccines. There are a few things that I think are really, really important here. They say, well, let me find it in the examples. Here's the things you are not allowed to say on YouTube. You can't deny COVID. You can't claim people haven't died from COVID. I think that's all insane. Of course COVID exists. Of course people died from it. Claims that any vaccine is a guaranteed prevention method for COVID-19. That's an important thing that YouTube is saying. And this is why I think YouTube shouldn't be in this game. YouTube is saying that creators aren't allowed to say there's a way to prevent COVID. That's weird to me. Shouldn't, like, they're basically saying you can't claim the vaccine is a guaranteed method of prevention. Okay, well, don't. That's why I'm like, talk to a doctor, man. They say you can't say there's a cure for it. I love this one. You can't promote miracle mineral solution. I don't know. Claims that certain people have immunity due to their race. You can't say that. Encouraging home remedies. Discouraging people from consulting a medical professional. That's the most important thing. Content that claims you're holding your breath as a diagnostic test. Where did these things come from? I've never heard these things. Avoiding Asian food. I love that one. Let's see. So there's basically a few that I think are really important. Claims that COVID-19 are a means of population reduction. I love it. I love it. Here's what I think. I think massive multinational pharmaceutical corporations saw an opportunity to implement mRNA technology, the fastest way to actually produce a vaccine targeting a virus that is novel and not yet been seen. And Donald Trump, seeing an opportunity to come out as the hero, green lights this because he supports experimental medicine. And then the main problem is mandates. Mandates. It doesn't seem to me to be a grand conspiracy for the most part. I mean, who am I to know, right? But it just seems like a product of corporate government collusion, as we often see. Here's another, they have a separate policy. This is really important. This one's important. Vaccine misinformation policy. They say, don't post content to YouTube if it includes harmful misinformation about currently approved and administered vaccines on any of the following. They say that you are not allowed to claim vaccines do not reduce transmission or contraction of disease. The challenge there is that a judge in Staten Island literally ruled this, saying in a court ruling, being vaccinated does not prevent an individual from contracting or transmitting COVID-19. As of the day of this decision, CDC guidelines regarding quarantine and isolation are the same for vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. The petitioners should not have been terminated for choosing to protect themselves. Now, a judge is not a doctor, but I think the issue there that needs to be brought up is YouTube is making an assertion that falls outside the law. Judges make these interpretations and they can be wrong. But YouTube is not a legal authority. If YouTube is mandating that you either say a positive affirmation or nothing at all, they are forcing a conversation in a direction which could result in dramatic and serious medical misinformation. For that, I say, YouTube, you're complicit. You are worse than the worst. Look, I'm no fan of medical misinformation. Okay? I'm no fan of people making videos and encouraging people to do things that may be wrong. I have heard over and over again from people about ivermectin. I've heard from medical professionals positive things about ivermectin. I'm sorry. I'm not convinced. And the reason is not because, look, I don't trust massive multinational corporations, but you can't just come to me and say it worked. I trust me. I'm like, okay, look, I've got to see stronger data. And then people come on and say, yeah, but the medical establishment is corrupt and they want to make money. And I'm like, that doesn't mean something. That's not proof positive. That's just indicative of corruption. So just because you think an industry is corrupt does not prove something to be true. You see my point? I'm not telling you what to do. Okay. I'm not telling you I'm right about everything. I'm saying I'm just more of a skeptic on most things, and I am imperfect. If massive multinational corporations are producing some kind of new medication with a government mandate and no bid, no liability contracts, there's reason to believe that, they don't want people to be talking about bad things that may arise from this because they're making money. But they also have no liability. So in the end, do they really care all that much? I suppose people wouldn't take their product regardless of liability. So they don't want bad people they don't want people talking bad about it. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. But ultimately, I think the biggest concern I have is the inability of people to have a conversation around these issues, honestly. And I think you've got to be careful about tribalist views. Because I get all these people spamming me with like, Tim's wrong about the vax, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, all my life, I've gone to the doctor and they've been like, we're giving you, whatever. And I'm just like, don't know what it is, but I trust you, doc. And then when it comes to this, everyone's like, I no longer trust doctors at all. And I'm like, when did you ever? Like, they tell you to eat a thing. You go to a nutritionist and say, you got to eat more of this. And you're like, okay, I guess. Right? It's all faith-based and all trust. I'm not saying I trust the medical industry. I've seen too many creepy things. I'm saying I just don't. But my point is simply this. Just because corporations do evil things doesn't mean that alternative treatments work. It doesn't. Sorry. And there's been studies that are positive that have shown positive effects from taking like ivermectin, and many that have shown that's not the case, that it's done absolutely nothing. And that's why I'm always like, talk to a doctor. But outside of all of that stuff, I just want to say this. The fact that people can't have a conversation or debate the issue is insane. It's insane. Okay? So the people on X right now that are posting all about this, the people on Twitter that are tweeting all about this, I think it's a legitimate question to ask if Bronny James suffered myocarditis, vaccine related, which resulted in cardiac arrest. Here's what I'm going to say in my opinion. So is it possible? Based on everything we've just read, seems like it. However, when was the last time you got a vaccine? From what I saw, it was years ago. Maybe we don't have any updated information. According to everything we know about this so far, or we think we know, myocarditis happens shortly after and with an increased likelihood after the second dose. Why would he have gotten it recently? Take that into consideration. There have been stories of people who have suffered cardiac arrest, athletes, well before COVID and the lockdowns and all that, but we have seen more and more stories. You also need to consider, is the media hyper-focused on these stories because now there's a reason to be? When an 18-year-old kid suffered cardiac arrest from something 10 years ago, it wouldn't make headline news. Nobody cared because it was a rare occurrence. Maybe a couple dozen happened per year. Now it's like every story, anytime it happens, it has to be talked about. And it's because deep down people are concerned it may be the vaccine. I'm not saying that YouTube, calm down, keep your pants on. I'm just saying we should take into consideration the fact that I'm saying YouTube shouldn't restrict the conversation, right? And I also just hope y'all realize, right, if 12.7 billion shots are given out and there is an adverse event 1 in 1 million, you're looking at millions of adverse events in the news. All right. Like, actually, if it's 1 in a million, we're talking about a lot of stories, tens of thousands, 100,000+. And then people are going to assume it's worse than it really is. But I'll say, informed consent requires you having heard what I've had to say, looking into this yourself, and talking to a doctor about, what's going on. So anyway, long story short, man, we're so past this, aren't we? Right? COVID is no longer as big in the news, but who knows? The election's coming up, so we'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.